The following podcast is a Dear Media production.
Welcome back to the Real Stuff podcast. Today's episode is a little bit different. I think it's going to be different from most every podcast you've ever listened to. And this is a conversation that I really could have avoided having if I wanted to. And honestly, at some other points in my life, I might have read this submission and completely ignored it. Because the truth is, there is a touch of awkwardness and discomfort in it. But if you know anything about me or the show, when I find awkwardness and discomfort, I run headfirst towards it. A few weeks ago, I got a podcast submission from a girl named Sydney who is extremely similar to me in so many ways. She told me she's been a follower since my Refinery 29 days, and she said she's always struck by how similar and parallel our lives are. She is also married to her high school sweetheart. She has a really close relationship with family. She has 2 kids. Her son is just about Milo's age, and her daughter is just about Coco's age. She also has celiac disease, and we have a lot of similarities. But the differences come in our financial situations. She, as she describes it, lives in rural Colorado, below the poverty line. And she mentioned that she lives with her family of 4 in a 550 square foot log cabin that has 1 bedroom. When she watches my content, she feels this strange tension because she sees herself in me, but then she also doesn't. And that message really stopped me in my tracks. I could have easily thought this is a very interesting message to receive and wow, we're living parallel lives, but I don't exactly want to dive into this in an episode of the show because what's the point of this conversation? But I wanted to run headfirst into this discomfort and have this conversation to see what would come out of it. And this conversation wound up being fascinating. Sydney opened up about some specific posts of mine. She was very specific that made her feel something, made her feel somewhat judgmental of me, maybe posts that she was thinking negative things after looking at it. And we really together unpack why, and I ask her some specific, real deep questions. Many of these questions were probably not even in my best interest to ask or to know, but I really went there. For me, it's always been a classic case of 2 things can be true. Yes, I know I am a hard worker. I am entrepreneurial. I know I'm a smart person. I pour my heart and soul into my work and I show up every single day. Yes. And many aspects of my current life and my current financial situation are a direct reflection of the life that I was born into and the home I was born into, the town I was born into, the resources I've been given, the education I was gifted, the connections that I was given. I cannot separate the 2 from one another. I have no doubt that I would not be where I am today if I had not come exactly from the background I came from. And I can still know all of that and be proud of the things I've done. And in this conversation, I go through this with Sydney because something I've always wanted to ask someone directly who is in one of those lower income brackets. Does it help when creators continue to acknowledge their privilege? Are you hearing that and saying, thank you, I'm so glad you did that? Or are you just thinking, shut up about your stupid privilege? The main topic of this conversation, I thought it would focus on money, but it did sort of head over in a new direction towards the difference between her rural lifestyle and my more fast-paced lifestyle in and around the city. And I love the direction that we went in. I think anyone who's a mom or even not a mom is going to find this conversation fascinating. What you're about to hear is honest, unforgettable, and unbelievably human. I hope you enjoy listening to it, and I hope that it lands somewhere near and dear to your heart. Enjoy this conversation with my audience caller, Sydney. Hi, Sydney. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Welcome to the Real Stuff podcast. I cannot thank you enough for writing in and for taking the time to not only consume my content, but then to write and engage with me. And I feel so lucky to have you here. And I just love meeting people from all around the world and the country. And so, first of all, it's really great to meet you.
Yeah, it's exciting to meet you too.
Can you start by telling me about your life, both your background growing up and then your current life now and just what your day-to-day looks like?
Okay, yeah. I grew up in really rural Colorado, like a 2,000, 3,000 person town. We did not have a in-town grocery store or anything like that. I went to school in that town, but everything else we drove out of town for. And then now my husband and I live in a little bit bigger of a town, like 10,000 people, still rural Colorado. And we have a 4-year-old and a 9-month-old. And yeah, I don't know.
And a lot of things about our lives are similar. I know you wrote to me that you're married to your high school sweetheart. You have a great relationship. I think you specifically said with your mother-in-law and your families. Yeah. And you also have celiac disease. And obviously our kids are almost the exact same age and age gap.
Yes. Yeah. I've been following you since forever. And I graduated in 2014. And then we kind of have a similar timeline with finding out. I think I found out I had celiac a little bit before you did. And I also got married a little bit before you did. And I think my first kid is a little bit older than yours. But otherwise, it's like a very parallel timelined life.
So many similarities. And we will dive into some of the big differences. But before we get there, can you just share some things that you love about your life?
I absolutely adore the simplicity. It's so easy. It's slow paced. I love that it's dark at night here.
That's a big one.
I love that it's dark at night. We can see the stars. We have such easy access to the wilderness and the mountains. My whole family, even the 9-month-old, just went for a multi-day backpacking trip this week.
Wow.
And we also live like 3 blocks from everyone in my sister's right here, my mom's right here, my aunt, my great grandpa, like my husband rides his bike to work. It's really nice that we have everything we need really close by, but without all of the traffic and more people and busyness of the city and stuff like that.
Were you ever the kind of person who, as a kid watched movies and saw big cities or wanted to relocate to a different place?
I was not.
So you're just very happy with the small town life.
I wanted to live in like Robin Hood when I was a kid, not the city.
Sounds lovely. I mean, the idea of being somewhat off the grid in a very rural setting, I think there are elements of my life and people who live in big cities it's just always chasing that. There are obviously so many amazing elements to your rural lifestyle. Can you now share what are some of the harder things in your life?
A lot more dependent on physically being with other people. I cannot DoorDash things or Rover or any of those conveniences are not that available. There's also a lack of child-specific activities besides going to the woods. Like there are swim lessons and stuff like that, but there's not a large variety. And when they fill up, and you have to really be there for that. And also, like, we have to buy things online. Very rarely do I, go to a physical store to purchase things.
When you first found me online and you came across my content, do you remember, not necessarily what exact video it was or, exactly how you found me, but do you remember what aspects of what I was sharing made you feel connected to me? I guess this would have been before the celiac and before the kids and before all of that. What was the first moment when you saw me and thought, oh my gosh, she is me?
Yeah, we were both at a time in our life we were trying new things, and you were first time, I think, outside of college, first time living in an apartment with roommates. Mm-hmm. And I was first time living on my own, and it was kind of that living on your own, pretending you're an adult kind of content that drew me in the beginning.
Maybe it was my 5 days of adulting video.
That's fair. That might have been it.
And then, do you remember a specific moment or any collection of moments when you saw some stuff online about me and my life and thought, wait a minute, she's not me?
All of the content that was about New York City, I was very, very different. And a lot of recent content, I think about your having to purchase a car. I think it's your first car, right? And you're talking about like the decisions and having to choose a car and all stuff like that. And I'm like, I have only ever driven the car that was available. Like, I have never chosen a car. And it was something that opened my eyes, not just to like your lifestyle, but that was even a consideration for a huge swath of people.
On that note, I think that leads us into the big discrepancy that you pointed out in your email, which is our financial situations as families and as individuals. To whatever level you're comfortable, because I know you did open up about it in your note, are you open to sharing what your family's money situation is, what you and or your partner's income is, and, you know, your joint household income?
Last tax year, we didn't have our baby yet, so it was like pre-family of 4 income was just under $40,000 for the year.
And just so I understand, living where you live, where the cost of living is a lot lower than being in a big city in the New York area, is that a livable wage?
So I think that the average wage for like our county is close to double that.
Okay.
We have a very creative lifestyle as far as cost of living goes.
I really want to hear about that. What do you mean by that?
Being that we, live in my family's hometown, like we rent a cabin from my grandma's best friend. And so she's like, oh, I trust you guys to take care of the property and stuff. So we get a better deal on rent because, we're 3 generations deep on this friendship here.
How much are you paying in that rent?
We pay about $1,000 a month in rent. Our house, to be fair, is 550 square feet. So like probably your kitchen and living room area. We have a 1/4 acre, so we spend most of the time outdoors. So we don't need a huge amount of space inside.
And then what are some other, I don't know if you have any other specifics that you can think of creative ways that you guys make that $40K a year flex to cover your family's needs?
My husband rides his bike to work, and I drive a 2005 Dodge Caravan with almost 300,000 miles on it. It doesn't have great AC. It doesn't have any electrical on the inside, so like the doors don't lock, which is another rural thing. You probably need your doors to lock. Not a thing here. Yeah, it doesn't have a stereo or a clock, or it just is a vehicle that drives.
There are so many directions we could go in this chat because I feel like down the path of rural motherhood versus, I'm not even in the city anymore, but I feel like my lifestyle is somewhat similar to what it was being in a bustling city. At least just the energy of the people around me is somewhat similar. Yeah, it's faster paced, and we could definitely distinguish the differences between parenting and motherhood, and it sounds like there's a lot of different aspects of our lives. I know you had written to us about how most of the women in your town that have babies don't work. Is that correct?
Most of them have like side hustle situations, but almost none of them work full time out of the home.
And similarly, you mentioned, there aren't the preschools the same way we have them here. So most of the kids are at home until kindergarten.
There is a preschool at the elementary school, but in my personal life, I don't know any kids that go to preschool.
And you also shared, I loved this, that you trade babysitting for dog sitting, or you will go to someone's house and give them sourdough in exchange for kale. I mean, in my lifestyle, this sounds so, it's like ancient wisdom and ancient practices, but also sounds so extremely lovely. Like what I would give to get some kale in exchange for sourdough.
Yes. Yeah. I actually, since I wrote that note, I was talking to my husband about it, and he was like, you should tell her about the espresso machine, because my husband is a very coffee centric life, and he really wanted this espresso machine, and it was on Facebook Marketplace, and I just messaged the lady and I was like, can we work out some sort of barter? And I ended up babysitting for her for a summer for the espresso machine.
Wow, that's amazing. It honestly sounds like the lifestyle of rural motherhood and just rural living. It seems like things are just so much more simple, and everyone seems more humanistically connected to one another. I feel like there are a handful of people who live in a more rural environment who, as you said, have access to the internet. They can see what's happening in some of these faster cities around the world, but their life is very much more old school and with the earth. And I think that some of those people look at, call it the influencers or just content creators or anyone who has any sort of public presence in these other places, and they dream of that lifestyle. And they think, that's my goal, is to get out of this town and get there. And then there's another subset of people who probably looks at people like that with sadness and says, wow, what a sad life. If only they had what I have. I'm really living my best life here, and I'm connected to nature, and my kids are outside all day, and I'm connected to my community. And, they might actually in some ways look down upon this faster paced lifestyle. It sounds to me like you're not looking up or down, but that you see the differences and that you do seem really happy with your situation. Is that right?
Yes, I love our lifestyle. There are, like, for an example, on the celiac note, I'll see some of your content with this, like, access to gluten-free food that I do not have. I have the gluten-free food that I make, period. That's it.
I would love to come to your house for some of that homemade gluten-free food. I'm sure it's better than most of what I'm having.
That's what I hear. I don't have a ton of gluten-free, like, outside food. If we'll go to the city, obviously, and I'll have some of it, but I only bake gluten-free, and sometimes I won't tell people and they don't know the difference.
If you follow me on Instagram or you have been a longtime listener of this podcast, you likely already know how much I love Magnetic Me. You've probably also seen these pajamas and their clothes linked in my Instagram story highlights. I share them all the time. And now that Milo's back to school, our mornings around here are feeling a little bit more hectic than usual, which makes me even more grateful for these clothes. They have these easy to use magnetic closures that make getting Coco dressed in the morning so quickly. They also have toddler clothes from Milo too. And honestly, the magnetic snaps have saved me so much time. Those extra minutes in the morning really add up. Instead of wrestling a baby to zip zippers or button buttons, I get to spend that time just enjoying breakfast with the kids before everyone heads out the door, because truly the magnetic closures just seal themselves. I tell every single friend of mine who is a soon-to-be parent about this company because the clothes are seriously a game changer. No zippers, no snaps, no frustration. Even when Coco is extra squirmy, I can get her dressed in literally seconds. It's also underrated, but so helpful for grandparents who are truly not in their prime when it comes to changing babies. Plus, their prints are so adorable, and they offer newborn sizes from their footies all the way to convertible footies when your baby's walking, to two-piece toddler sets, and then to adult clothes as well. I think their prints are adorable, and the fabrics are so soft that now that Milo can get dressed himself and pick out his own pajamas, he's always reaching for Magnetic Me. If you have not ordered from this brand yet, now is the time. I know you're going to love them as much as I do. So if you're a parent or if you're shopping for one, head over to magneticme.com. And if you're a new customer, you will get 15% off your first order. That's magneticme.com. So can you tell me, what was your motive or thought process behind reaching out to me? And I'd love to hear, what does it feel like to watch content where there's so many similarities, but then, like, is the primary difference that you notice finances, or are we talking about just our different geographical locations and our lifestyles because of that, or is it both? And why did you reach out, and what did you feel like was the through line of this talk?
So I reached out originally because I think that there's a majority rules situation going on where, like, vast majority of content creators are of a less rural, more financially available, more city-centric type. And it doesn't make me reconsider what I'm doing or my lifestyle, but it does make me think that there's a quieter voice that isn't really being featured of people who are living a different lifestyle. And I think it's nice to, especially like your podcast is one of them that has such a broad base that you're able to do something like this where you can point out that this isn't the only way.
So would you say it's more so about wishing for more representation of people that come from different types of backgrounds?
I think, yeah, in the base way, not necessarily like finances or geographic location, but just it's a lot of, you have to be a creative type to be a content creator. So then this whole group of people who aren't very creative aren't getting featured very often. And it feels the same way with like this, you kind of have to have these connections to be featured. And so there's a whole group of people without connections that aren't being featured. And I think it's nice that you're making that more available. And so I thought, I'll just send her an email.
I love it. And I think, a lot of people could have read your email as, I don't know, wanting to call the influencer out for differences, or I don't even know. I didn't read it like that at all. I read it like you wanted to have this conversation where we're so similar, yet there's this obvious big discrepancy. And financially, I agree, there's a financial discrepancy. And part of that comes from just our base financial backgrounds. The other part of it comes from where we live, because I do think, in bigger cities, there are bigger job opportunities with more money, but then your cost of living goes up. So there's a lot of things in the money world and the money side of things to talk about. But I do find maybe the bigger difference here to be our lifestyles and the locations we live and what that means for how we live our lives. But your email did make me start to think a lot, because I remember when I first started at Refinery 29 and I was making videos there, you can only really know what you know about the world at any given time. And as time goes on, you learn more and then you adjust, whether that's, the way you're showing up or the language you're using or the thought patterns you're going down. But starting out as a 23-year-old person on Refinery 29's platforms, I remember showing up to the platforms, knowing what I know and talking from my personal life experiences. And there was someone there who works there, who's now a close friend of mine, who wound up being my producer at the time of the content. And she, even though she was also from the Northeast and lived in Manhattan with me, she came from a bit of a different financial background from me. And I mean, just the most basic way to describe the difference was that I graduated college without student loan debt, and she was in the midst of paying back her loans. And she sat me down and was like, you have to keep in mind, this is a blind spot you have with your content. You have to keep in mind when you're talking that you're not just talking to Lucie 2.0, who lives in New York City, who is with her high school boyfriend and lives in Hell's Kitchen. But she literally said, you're talking to the person in rural Colorado.
Right.
She actually said that, who doesn't have a grocery store within 15 minutes of her, and there's no hot yoga class. And you need to make sure that everything you say, not that everything needs to be caveated with, everyone has a different situation, but make sure that you're using language that's a little bit more inclusive, or at least giving ideas. So long as you're suggesting lifestyle changes and trying new things, at least giving ideas that are accessible to people in different scenarios and places. And that was one of the best pieces of feedback and advice I got. And I feel like from that point forward, obviously every day is a learning process, but I do feel like somewhat from that point forward, the way I approach my content is coming from a place of trying to at least keep an open mind about who might be listening. And I never know what corner of the world they're sitting in or what background they come from. And I'm trying to make things as relatable and relevant to as many people as possible. That said, I have very clear stats. If I pulled up my Instagram, I have the stats on what my demographic is and who's following me. And, my top percentage of followers are the big cities in the US, New York, Boston, Los Angeles. And then I think the next one is it goes to another country, it goes to London. So the really big cities are the places where most people are following me. So I guess there's an argument to be made that I can't talk to everyone. I have to be speaking to someone. And in some ways, I just have to speak to the people who are living somewhat of the same life that I'm living. And hearing from people like you, it just disrupts that for me, because it reminds me that even if a large percentage of my audience is more in my lifestyle and situation, that there are still other people out there who are listening with a, attentive ear and who want to be folded into the content. So, I mean, first, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's actually bringing to mind, I feel like you do a fairly good job of making accessible suggestions and being relatable in general content. But I have historically and will often skip through a lot of your parenting content, even though our kids are the exact same age, because it's just so specific to your kids, which obviously it has to be. The only kids you're parenting are your kids. But neither of my kids have ever, we have a 500 square foot house. We have a 1-bedroom house. There's no different rooms, different beds, and there never has been. And it's just one step too far to be interesting for me to listen to hear, your sleep training tips, because it won't ever apply.
I was going to say sleep training is not applicable when there's 1 bedroom.
No, exactly.
Do you ever look at the content that I'm posting or that other creators that you watch are posting? And by the way, you can be totally honest. I want you to be brutally honest here. Do you ever watch it with the mindset of this girl is so out of touch and she just doesn't understand how it really is?
So I don't have Instagram, which really solves this problem.
Oh, okay. So where are you primarily watching me?
Just YouTube.
Just YouTube. Okay.
Just YouTube. That's my only social media is YouTube. I mostly watch like longer form content videos. I listen to the podcasts. I don't usually watch them. But as far as that goes, I will a lot of times watch content that's talking about how difficult parenting is with kind of an eye roll because it's not been my personal experience. I've really enjoyed it. I only have the 2 kids, but it's definitely been kind of like a really smooth, easy, like we don't sleep train. We don't do schedules. Everyone lives their life. And when they cross paths, we cross paths. Like, it's just not. So a lot of times I'll watch like milestone content or content about people's specific babies and like hardships that they're going through with a little bit of an eye roll.
And what about from the financial standpoint? Are you watching, not that someone like me is making any content that's saying I don't have enough money, and then obviously you'd be like, shut up, bitch. But is someone like you watching content of someone like me who does have the financial means for more than you have and thinking, fuck her?
Not often, but sometimes.
No, I appreciate the honesty. And what is the style of content, or what are the moments that you tend to feel that way?
Well, it's like a combination. Like YouTube Shorts, the way they feed it to you is like you can see all of just one person's. So like if I'm going to watch shorts, I'll just watch like your shorts until I've seen them all or whatever. And so in that kind of scenario, I'll see like you're traveling to a bachelorette thing, and then also talking about like trying to get Milo to learn how to ski, because it's all in one long short thing. And like here, for one, rurally, and for 2, in Colorado, it's like a long winter. And so like my husband and I have had long discussions about how it's really important to us that our kids learn how to ski, because as teenagers, there's very few options between like drinking and poor mental health and having access to skiing.
Oh, wow.
And if you're good at it, then it's fun. And if you suck at it, then it's just really hard and not that fun.
Right.
And so like we have the last 2 years gone through quite a bit of financial strain and like doing side jobs and coming up with like finding used gear many, many miles away and driving hours to find used skis and stuff, so that when our kid is 15, he has the opportunity to go skiing instead of play video games in the cold, dark winter. And that's the kind of content where I'm like, yeah, that seems really hard, JK. That's stupid. Like, you should really think about how in real life that's actually hard.
So are you talking, and by the way, I'm trying to remember the content I talked about skiing because we still have not taken him skiing, but that is something we wanted to do this winter and we didn't yet. But
I don't remember. I think it was a short, but it might have been a video.
and
Like
I do remember that Michael and I talked about it too because we do want him to learn how to ski. But are you saying that you seeing the contrast of me talking about how we're going to maybe take him skiing and then I'm blowing my money on a bachelorette party, whereas you're saving
Right.
up for the skiing? That's what you're saying.
Yes. Yes, exactly. You're like, you'll talk about teaching Milo to ski being like a priority for you this winter, and then also spending all the money that I would be saving
I see.
for my son to ski on just going on a vacation with your friends, which I have never done.
I see. No, it's really fascinating. And it does make me think, girl. Sydney, you've got me thinking a lot. And I would love to just hear, and not to say that creators need to be caveating their whole lives or showing up on social media. You simply can't be living everyone's experience or aware of everyone's experience or even tailoring your content to make sure that everyone in every scenario feels comfortable consuming it. But I do feel particularly connected to my audience, and I do feel, particularly connected to people who write to me, and we clearly have some connection going on with how similar our lives are. So I do feel connected to you. And so I guess I want to ask you if you have any advice for me as to how I can show up without putting a disclaimer on every video that, I know you might not have the funds to do this, but we're going to try to do this, or without constantly throwing the amount of money of disposable income I have in everyone's face so that everyone knows that I'm not wasting or spending my money incorrectly. What would you suggest a creator do or say or not do or not say so that when you're watching, you don't get those icky feelings?
I think probably 90% of it is on my side of things, the consumption side. Because, like, if I hadn't seen the Bachelorette video on the exact same day that I was emailing back and forth with the ski school, it just wouldn't have been a thing.
Right.
And I think that very minimal 10% side is just make it more obvious what, like, the way it felt to me when I was watching I forget what it was, but when you're talking about skiing with Milo, was that was like something really important to your family. And I was like, yeah, that's really important to my family. I'm working my ass off for that to happen. Whereas, now it seems more like, with perspective of actually talking to you,
right,
it seems more like, oh, that would be really fun. And it's like, I can totally see how that would be really fun.
Yeah.
Of course. And that kind of eases this is a burden for me and it's just something fun for you. If you make it obvious that this is just something fun. This isn't like a priority I've been really working on. Because I think a lot of your content I'll see and you make it clear. Like you recently put out the video that was like an unedited vlog. And you were talking about how like it was really fun and important and you are trying to get into and I could totally relate because just separately I have things that are fun and important and whatever for me. So even though they're very different, I can see the motivation and then relate to it.
It is interesting though, just because what if in my case or another creator's case, they were in my same financial situation and skiing was really important to them. And they were also going to a bachelorette. That would change your perception because the understanding I'm getting from what you're saying is that it almost softens the blow now, you hearing it, knowing that it is just for fun. But are you saying that if it was a super important thing to me and I also didn't have to worry about managing the funds to make it happen, that's where it gets sticky for you?
I think what it is if it's super, like, skiing being the example, if Milo skiing is super important for you, then I feel like having it be something that gets offhandedly mentioned makes it more of a sticking point. Whereas like the bachelorette party, I could watch that any day of the week and it'd be like, oh yeah, obviously doing a TikTok dance on the beach is not a family priority for you. I can let that slide, like it's not like a big deal. But having something that feels like a family priority be kind of a sideshow part, that felt like a sticking point for me.
I think I understand what you're saying.
I don't know how to make it easier, though. I don't have any suggestions.
No, I mean, I don't know that there's a solution to it. And especially in the content creation world where people like me are creating such a high volume of content that, and also especially on YouTube Shorts, which is unfortunately, if that's the only platform you're on, my YouTube Shorts is recycled content all the time from sometimes 3 years ago. And you really might be seeing, you might even see a video today or tomorrow that I shot when I was still living in New York City, because it's constantly finding new audiences. And it's not really, I'd never viewed YouTube Shorts as being tailored to my followers, given that 96% of the viewers are non-subscribers. So It's interesting, like the way I as a creator am curating the content versus the way you see it, and it really makes a difference for you. The 2 videos you see back to back, that's a good learning for me.
Yeah. I feel like and that's a good point, that I am really not your most average viewer. Mm-hmm. Like I don't have TikTok and I don't have Instagram. So I'm not you shouldn't really be catering to me.
All right, listen up, ladies. If you want your partner to smell so good that you're basically jumping their bones and you can't stop inhaling them, you need laundry sauce, specifically their Indonesian patchouli scent. Oh my gosh, this is the sexiest smell in the entire world. It smells like a clean, freshly showered, cologne-wearing man, but obviously it's in laundry pod form. I have the laundry detergent pods with me here, but they also have dryer sheets in the same scent. I want to show you what the pods look like. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see. I throw these in the machine when I'm watching my husband's clothes. And you guys, I have now completely customized his scent to exactly what I want. And let me tell you, it is truly working in my favor. I love that laundry sauce has a whole set of the ultra concentrated pods, scent boosters, dryer sheets, and fabric conditioner, and they're all designed to work together and smell amazing. But beyond the sexy smell, these premium laundry pods are so easy to use. They're pre-measured, it's totally mess-free, and if you have a laundry sauce subscription package, everything comes right to your door so that you never run out. Plus, they have flexible options and exclusive perks. It really is the ultimate laundry glow up, and for a limited time only, our listeners of the Real Stuff podcast can get 20% off their entire order when using the code all caps REALSTUFF at laundrysauce.com. That's 20% off at laundrysauce.com with promo code REALSTUFF. And after checkout, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. So don't forget to drop our name. Go ahead, lock in your subscription today to stay stocked up and step into the season smelling and feeling like you've got it all together. So upgrade your laundry game, tailor your partner's scent. Highly recommend the Indonesian patchouli, and thank me later. I know that the answer to this is going to be wildly different from person to person, so I'm not asking you to speak on behalf of every rural mother in the world, or not even rural mother, but to go to your point in the email about being a lower income family. I don't want you to be speaking for everyone that's considered a lower income family. However, creators online are sort of groomed to constantly be acknowledging their privilege, and especially just as relates to money, not even as relates to lifestyle, because I do think in many ways you're living a more privileged lifestyle and a more abundant, like you have more wealth in a lot of ways. But from a monetary standpoint, we are taught to acknowledge our privilege in everything. And it kind of goes back to me saying to you how you can't caveat everything and you can't whatever, but I do find myself over and over again calling out if I'm struggling with something that I know I am so privileged, or I come from this background, and even though I'm coming from this background, I'm still finding this challenging, or I just find myself leaning on it and saying it a lot because I think my understanding of it is that it's helpful for people who are in a lower income bracket to hear that I am aware of that. But I can't help but wonder does that get old? Like, are people like, can you just shut up about your privilege and just move on?
I feel like it's so, like you said, like content creators, influencers are so adamant about that. It's like the credits. It's like the preview before the actual video start. You're like, and then,
you're like, okay, fast forward through I acknowledge.
Yeah, like it's neither here nor there. I rarely actually, it's like that's in the background. I rarely actually listen to the caveat ahead of the video. It feels like it's for naysayers, not for me,
Yeah.
Like it's the caveat in the beginning is for the people who just showed up and need a caveat in the beginning. I already know. So I'll just listen to the video instead.
So it doesn't make you feel validated or it doesn't make you feel good?
No, it's just kind of there. It's not making me feel worse or better. It's just, like I said, it's like the preview, the credits. It's the opening song. It's like, yeah, I know what I'm getting into. We live different lives. Anyway, let's hear the struggle.
Got it. I think it's really fascinating because as a creator, I think the fear that some creators have when they don't do that is they're just waiting for the comments to come in, calling out the privilege and calling out the out of touchness and just calling them out. And I think the creators are just trying to get ahead of it it's almost like, well, if I just say it, then what are you going to have to say? Because if you have to say that I'm just another privileged white woman, I already know that. I've already called that out. And
right.
What do you want from me? It's almost like a defense mechanism.
It feels a lot more like a business move than like a personal acknowledgement of privilege. It's like, yeah, you have to say that because yeah, you're a privileged white girl, of course.
And I there are many times when I'm speaking that I don't know, it's easy to say this in retrospect, but there are many times when I'm speaking when I very much am thinking back to that Refinery 29 producer and the thought of trying to keep it relatable. And so I really do feel it is coming from a place of not a business decision, but from a place of I want people who are in other situations to understand that I'm aware that their situation's different. And so it is coming from a good place, but it still does feel like I always question if the people that it's intended for are actually receiving it well.
Yeah, it doesn't feel disgenuine. It doesn't feel like you're doing it for yourself, but it also doesn't feel like you're telling me personally that you see a different life. Like it feels like everyone says it. So it's just, it is real, but it's also like, yeah.
Now just a few more questions. Given that your lifestyle is so simple and, you have, it does sound like with the skiing, you have some important areas that you're saving up for or working really hard for. But in general, it sounds like you guys are making do with what you have and that you love the simplicity of this rural lifestyle. Would you say that maybe this is a silly question, but I'm just going to ask it.
Yeah.
Do you want more money to be earning more money and have more money? And if you had more money, what would you do with it?
See, that's you answered the question with the second question. It's like, if I had more money, what would I do with it? Gosh, I don't know. A lot of things, but then how much more money? Because like, I really want to, I just got a bunch of free pavers and I would really like to build a paver patio, but I need to buy like fill dirt and clover seed and stuff, like just random stuff. It's like, do I wish that when I wanted to build a random patio, I could just go buy the stuff for it? Or like, if I'm really tired or I'm sick and I don't feel like cooking, do I wish I could do that? Yes, in the moment. But also when I think about if we had X amount more money, we would likely not spend it on those things and spend it on other priorities. So it's hot. It's like, I wish I had the like cop out of I have expendable income, so I'll just go out to lunch instead of pack. But I feel like I would have to, if we had more money, then I would drive a different car. And so the money that we have more of would go towards the vehicle, not towards me not eating out or whatever. So it's like, there's just so many layers to it.
Are you right now saving any money?
Yes. So we have an IRA that we put money into every month. And then we have my husband works for himself, so we have to save money for taxes. And then separate from that, we have a small savings account for like emergencies. But we're not saving money currently for anything besides those 3 items.
Got it.
We have in the past, but as of right now, we are not.
And also, as we both know, being at this stage with younger kids, there's a lot more expenses than we likely will have at other stages.
Yes, we just spent quite the sum of money for wool clothing for a 9-month-old. So,
well, you're in those harsh winters, so that is a priority.
Yeah, we just went backpacking, and it's like, yeah, if you want to live in the woods for 5 days, everyone needs to be comfortable. So we're dropping the coin on the wool clothes for the baby.
Obviously, mental health comes from many different areas, and people can argue that your physical health is having an impact on the mental health, or your financial strain can impact your mental health. And there's a lot of reasons. But do you feel in general that, at least when you hear the type of content, maybe not from me, but from other people in my sphere, do you feel like our mental health is being impacted because of the lifestyle we're living?
100%. Absolutely. I feel like in general, when I consume content about mental health, it's about how hard it is to see stuff that, puts you down or demotivates you on social media. Well, I don't have that. Or doom scrolling and stuff.
My biggest problem.
Yeah, we do not have a TV, and we actually didn't have Wi-Fi at our house until like this year. So that is also like not a thing. We read books at night, and we don't watch anything. I watch YouTube on my phone when my kids aren't around. My husband watches YouTube on his phone pretty much in the bathroom, and that's it. Like, we don't watch anything. We're outside all the time. Like, we're in the sun all the time. I really, 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 anytime I consume content that touches on mental health, it is all mental health issues that are based off of lifestyle.
Yep.
That, to be fair, I'm like a late 20s, middle class, middle America white person. So like the content that I'm getting fed is that type of mental health content. It's not, my algorithm isn't feeding me content for people who are homeless or dealing with like physical mental health issues like that. In my consumption, it's almost all lifestyle based struggles as far as mental health goes.
I did just download an app that one of my best friends, Coco, who my daughter is loosely named after, she told me about this app. It's called OneSec, and it's basically an app that turns your phone into a business that has hours, and then it like closes down certain apps after certain hours, and it puts a strict block, and you can't unblock them. And I literally just did it last night because of doom scrolling. So you're over here not doom scrolling because you're just not on social media, and I'm locking myself out like a store closing.
Well, to be fair, my husband has an app on his phone that blocks all of his, like, it blocks everything. Mm-hmm. It blocks Spotify for his geographic location. So if he's at home, he can access nothing. His phone is for calling and texting and Google Maps.
Wow.
And then when he's out at work, he can listen to audiobooks or music or watch a video at lunch or whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
But he had to reel it in.
You probably agree with this, but the general lifestyle, I'm going to call them trends, although they're not trends. They're just lifestyle wellness habits, but things that have popped up as big trends on social media that people are always talking about, people who live in New York City and LA, and they're sharing content about how to improve their lives with their healthy morning routine or getting outside for seeing the sun first thing in the morning and taking a walk. And it's all things that are just, that's your life. Yeah. We have to, because of where we live and the nature of what our day consists of and what the communities around us are doing, we really have to make those things routines and put rigid structures and systems in place in order to get them. And even when we do that, we're still failing to achieve those goals, and it's definitely impacting us mentally, which leads me to say, you know, I don't know what your interests are creatively, or if you know, had ever been an aspiring content creator of your own and had ever thought, well, as you sort of alluded to earlier, you know, I just don't have the means or the connections or the resources to be able to be successful at doing that. It also sounds like you don't want to be on social media if you don't even have Instagram, but someone like you who's listening, who does live in a more rural place with less money and is not at all in these situations where the New York and LA creators are, I do want to just say someone like me would be very interested in watching content from someone like you, because it's all about the different lifestyles. Like, that's what's interesting to people. And maybe you are fast forwarding through some stuff that's unrelated to you, but I do think that there's a large chunk of people who come from your background who are specifically watching to see the stuff that's different, and not because they want it, but because they're fascinated by it. My favorite, one of my favorite YouTubers to watch is Jonna Jinton. Do you know her? She lives somewhere in the north of Sweden in a town that is 24 hours of sun in the summer and 24 hours of darkness in the winter. And she lives in this little cabin. She makes her own everything. She's an artist. She is also an incredible cinematographer, so the videography is next level stunning, drone footage of mountains and snow and lakes. But she just showcases, especially the winter ones, where I would literally never want to live in a place that was 24 hours of darkness, but she showcases what she does. She literally hibernates in the winter, and it's moments like that when I'm watching her content and I'm thinking, this is so much better than TV. And I'm like, this is why the internet is amazing, is because it can give me exposure to someone who is living in the tip of this water in the north of Sweden in the most different lifestyle from me possible. And I can come along for a day in her life. And so I want to encourage people who are not living as glitzy and fast-paced of a lifestyle to showcase what you're doing, because the truth is, the stuff you do that comes second nature to you is what everyone here is trying to achieve.
Yeah, sometimes I walk down that mental road like, oh, what would it look like? Because you'll talk about, like, if I feel like it's become really popular actually recently in podcasts especially, but on YouTube too, to like talk about the behind the scenes of how the thing is getting made. And so, you know, it gets you thinking, and I just think like, gosh, where would I put the equipment? I'm sitting in the middle of my house because it's just like a big room, you know? And it's like, yeah, I have less than 5 cabinets.
You really just need a phone, and they make these tripods these days that pop up like a stick and then collapse, and it's just a little tube.
Oh, it seems so hard to learn. I had to like download an app to be able to do the podcast today, and I was like, I really should have been prepped for this. I don't know how to do this.
Well, I'm so happy you did. I'd love to leave this with a couple questions. What's something that you think you have that I don't have?
Like freedom. I don't have to regiment my phone use. I don't have to regiment my time. I wake up and I think, I should probably, but that's pretty much it. You know, I can do a lot of different things with my time because all I have to do is keep 2 people alive. I mean 3, including myself. Like,
and are you at this stage in your life not working because you wouldn't be able to afford childcare if you weren't home with the kids, or is it because you don't want to work?
Both. Prior to having kids, I taught ballet and swim lessons. And those things generally take place in the time that my husband is off work. You know, you take your kid to ballet in the evening and swim lessons in the weekends. And so I theoretically could, but then I would have to give up seeing my husband on the evening and weekends. And so that's like a choice that we're making, is that I'm not working so that we can spend maximum amount of time all together all the time.
My absolute favorite kind of movie is a love story that totally takes your breath away. And not just because the love is perfect, but because the love is somewhat impossible. Imagine that you found the person that you were meant to be with, but you guys were in the very place that was designed to destroy you. Imagine that you had to choose love when everything else around you was full of hate. Everything was designed to strip away your hope. Now, that's not just romance, that's destiny. And that is exactly what you feel when you're watching Bao Artist at War. This film opens September 26th, and I highly encourage you visit baomovie.com to watch the trailer. This film will stay with you long after you watch it. It's a Holocaust story, and at its heart, it is all about love, the kind of love that keeps you alive even in the darkest of days. Josef Bao was a prisoner in a Nazi concentration camp, but he was also an artist, a dreamer, and a man who risked absolutely everything, not only to help other people escape, but to keep love alive. And then there's Rebecca, whose courage matched his. And together, their story is proof that even in humanity's darkest hours, love can light the way. By the end of the film, you will be in tears, and not just from the sadness, but from the sheer beauty of the love between these two people. Bao Artist at War was directed by the phenomenal Sean McNamara, and it opens only in theaters for a limited run beginning September 26th. Visit baomovie.com, that's BAU movie.com, to watch the trailer, learn more about Josef and Rebecca's real-life journey, and to find showtimes near you. This is not just a film, it is a total reminder for all of us. A reminder that love isn't fragile, but love is fierce, and love can outlast even the darkest of times. And Josef and Rebecca's story proves that. And then lastly, if the two of us swapped lives for a week, what do you think would surprise you the most?
How hard it is. I really think I would be in utter shock at the decision fatigue. Choosing what to wear. Because all four of us share one closet and one dresser. So all of my clothes are in 3 drawers. So like choosing what to wear and then having access to 100 different options of gluten-free food, choosing what to eat. And then I would probably break down very soon trying to figure out what to do and what I wanted by just all of the different, there's too many choices. I think decision fatigue would glitch me out right away.
It definitely glitches me out, so that was a great answer. There's definitely a lot of decisions, and it's so fascinating because there are many different ways that a person like you from your background could feel given this difference and this discrepancy. And I mean, first and foremost, I want to thank you for your kind message and for showing up on this podcast with kindness, because I do actually think that maybe a majority of the negative comments that creators or someone like me might get might come from someone who has less and is upset about that and is triggered by seeing whatever's happening in my life. And, you know, even just the comment you made about the skiing versus the bachelorette party, I could see that being someone's inner monologue before they leave some hate on a post. And so to have someone here who is able to digest that internally and not spew it out is refreshing, first and foremost. But I also, it just makes me enamored with you because I love seeing someone who comes from a different background. And I obviously, in the case of money, I think in general, people in the world would say they want to have money versus not having money. But it does sound like you don't just want more money to have more money. You have thoughtful things about what you would use it for, and you also can't think of what you would use it for. So don't even necessarily need it, and your life is going just fine without having more. And I love hearing how much you are embracing and proud of and loving and grateful for the lifestyle that you have, because I think we could both see it's clear between the two of us that so many elements, you know, the money aside, so many elements of your lifestyle are what I'm striving for every day and utterly failing time and time again because my environment is just not set up for it and my life is just not set up for it. So, you know, I'm happy to be on a call with someone who acknowledges that. And it's almost like I want you to acknowledge your privilege because someone else in your situation might just be trying to get over here and just poo-pooing what you have. And I love that you're not doing that.
Yeah, I was describing to my husband how you put your face in the bowl of ice and how silly it is to me because we have literally in our driveway a horse trough full of cold water.
Wow.
So I just get into that for my ice exposure or whatever. And he was like, well, maybe she has an HOA. And I was like, oh, that's a good point. I forgot about HOAs.
No, I don't. And we also have a cold plunge. Like we have this little inflatable cold plunge that's in our backyard, but I wish it was a horse trough because that's a better shape for a cold plunge.
Yeah.
Oh, I could talk to you for hours. I just want to thank you for writing in. This was so much fun. What do you want to leave our audience with today from this conversation?
Gosh, just that everybody's life is going to be different and nobody's going to represent you perfectly except for yourself. So just listen with curiosity and fun, not to be relatable.
Yes. Thank you, Sydney. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Real Stuff podcast. If you're liking the show, please head over to Apple or Spotify and leave us a written review. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment down below and join in the conversation. And if you're feeling called to be a guest on the show, visit luciefink.com/apply and tell us your story. Thank you so much, as always, for sharing your time and attention with us, and we will see you next time on the Real Stuff podcast.
Please note that this episode may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products and services. Individuals on the show may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to in this episode.